So the Sun had the biggest royal scoop of the century on their hands. It was not only that they'd fallen out with William or that Meghan wasn't talking to Catherine, they wanted to leave the country. They were stepping down as working royals and they were going abroad. We splashed it on the front page, big headline, pictures of Harry and Meghan saying we are off again. Within a couple of hours, Harry and Meghan did confirm our story, and then we have the front page of the decade with the headline Megxit. And it was probably, I would suggest, the biggest exclusive, definitely this century, relating to the royal family. It was huge.
Good day, and welcome to the Sussex Files, the channel that asks the questions the palace press office really wishes we wouldn't. Now, before we get into it, I want you to do something for me. Picture this. It is a cold January evening in 2020. The British public is minding its business, sipping tea, arguing about Brexit, watching EastEnders, when suddenly, out of absolutely nowhere, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle detonate a grenade right in the middle of Buckingham Palace. No warning, no formal heads up, just a statement dropped on their website like a Deliveroo order nobody asked for, announcing they were stepping back as senior royals and planning to become financially independent. The palace found out the same time the rest of us did, through the internet, like peasants. And here is the thing that nobody talks about enough. That single moment, that one carefully worded press release, set off a chain of events so chaotic, so dramatic, and frankly so baffling, that we are still untangling the mess today in 2026. 6 years on, and we are still here, jaw on the floor, asking the same question. Was any of this actually planned? Or did Harry and Meghan genuinely think they could walk away from one of the most powerful institutions in the world and win? That is exactly what we are getting into today. And trust me, by the end of this video, you will never look at that January 2020 statement the same way again. But before we go any further, if you are new here, welcome. This channel is called the Sussex Files for a reason. We dig deep, we follow the facts, and we do not flinch. And right now, we are on a mission to hit 500 subscribers in the next 2 weeks. If this kind of sharp, no-nonsense royal analysis is your thing, and clearly it is, because you are still here, hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell right now. Because what is coming in this series, you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. Right, let us get into it. So, Megxit, the word that launched 1,000 think pieces and gave royal correspondents a reason to live. But what actually happened in the lead-up to that bombshell January statement? Because the official story, that Harry and Meghan were driven out by a hostile press and a cold, unwelcoming institution, has some rather significant holes in it. And today, we are filling those holes with facts. Let us go back further than January 2020. Let us go back to the autumn of 2019, because that is where this story really begins. Harry and Meghan had just returned from their royal tour of Southern Africa. A tour that, on the surface, went beautifully. Crowds cheering, Meghan dancing with children, Harry meeting with landmine survivors. All very moving. But behind the scenes, it was, by multiple accounts, an absolute powder keg. The couple gave separate interviews to ITV's Tom Bradby during that tour. Interviews that, at the time, raised eyebrows across every newsroom in Britain. Meghan openly admitted she was not okay. Harry spoke about his fractured relationship with his brother in terms that were startlingly raw for a member of the royal family. These were not the carefully managed, bland royal soundbites we were used to. These were two people broadcasting distress signals, loud and clear, to anyone paying attention. And the palace? The palace did what the palace does. It said very little, moved very slowly, and hoped the whole thing would blow over. It did not blow over. Because here is what makes the Megxit timeline so fascinating and so suspicious, depending on which way you lean. In November 2019, just weeks after that ITV interview, it emerged that Harry and Meghan had quietly launched legal proceedings against several British tabloids over privacy breaches. That is not a decision you make overnight. That takes planning. That takes lawyers. That takes strategy. So while the public narrative was poor Harry and Meghan, overwhelmed and exhausted, the behind-the-scenes reality looked rather more like a couple who had already decided, at least partially, that their future lay elsewhere. They were not running away. They were preparing their exit route. Then came the Sandringham Summit of January 13, 2020, A meeting so extraordinary it has its own name, which tells you everything. The king, then Prince Charles, William, Harry, and the late Queen Elizabeth II all sat down together to try and work out what on earth the Sussexes actually wanted. And here is the detail that never quite gets the attention it deserves. The Queen had to issue a statement afterwards confirming the outcome of those discussions, because Harry and Meghan's team had already been leaking details to the press before the meeting had even formally concluded. Before the meeting had concluded, if you did that in your workplace, you would be escorted from the building before you could say step back. The palace was furious. And frankly, who could blame them? Now, I know what some of you are thinking. But what about the racism allegations? What about the mental health struggles? Surely that explains everything. And look, those are serious claims that deserve serious treatment, and we will give them exactly that in episode 2, when we do a full, forensic fact check of the Oprah interview. That episode alone might break the internet, so make sure those notifications are on. But for today, the point is this. Even if every grievance Harry and Meghan ever expressed was 100% valid, and that is a very large if, the way they handled their departure was, by any reasonable measure, a masterclass in burning bridges while simultaneously complaining that you have nowhere to sit. They went to Canada first, then Los Angeles, then, eventually, Montecito, California, a place so rarefied and expensive that the average house price would make your eyes water. This was not a couple retreating to lick their wounds quietly. This was a couple relocating to the entertainment capital of the world with, it would later emerge, a very specific plan in mind. Netflix deals, Spotify podcasts, memoir writing, speaking tours, the works. Now, and this is the crucial question this episode wants to leave you with. At what point did the plan to monetize their royal exit become part of the reason for the exit itself? Because the timeline, when you lay it all out, suggests the answer is earlier than any of us realized. Think about it like this. Imagine you had a job, a very prestigious, very demanding job, and you decided you wanted to leave. Fair enough, people leave jobs all the time. But imagine that before you handed in your notice, you had already quietly signed with a rival company, briefed the press about your intentions, and started a legal battle against your employer's business partners. And then, when your boss was understandably a bit put out about all of this, you went on television and said you were the victim. That is, roughly speaking, the shape of what happened here. And it raises a question that has haunted the Sussex story ever since. Was this ever really about escaping an institution? Or was it about building a brand? Because here's the thing. You can feel genuine pain and still be calculating. You can have real grievances and still exploit them strategically. And you can genuinely believe your own narrative whilst the rest of the world looks at the evidence and sees something rather different. Harry and Meghan are not unique in any of this. Human beings are complicated and rarely do things for just one reason. But the version of events they have sold, the innocent victims, pushed out by a cruel and racist institution, left with no choice but to flee. That version requires you to ignore an awful lot of inconvenient details. Details like the fact that they hired a Hollywood PR firm before they had even formally left royal duties. Details like the fact that their Archwell Foundation was incorporated in the United States in the spring of 2020, suggesting plans were already well underway. Details like the fact that the Netflix deal, reportedly worth in the region of £100 million, was signed just months after they left. You do not land a deal like that without significant groundwork. And groundwork takes time. So where does that leave us? 6 years on from the Great Escape, the picture is becoming clearer by the day. The Netflix partnership has reportedly collapsed, with insiders describing the mood at the streaming giant as "we are done." Their PR team has imploded, 11 publicists in 5 years, with top American agencies now reportedly refusing to work with them at all. Their charitable foundation has shed most of its staff. Their income from donations has fallen by more than half in just 2 years. And the British public, the very public Harry and Meghan once commanded extraordinary affection from, has, according to every recent poll, largely moved on. The Great Escape, it turns out, was not the triumphant liberation it was billed as. It was the beginning of a very long, very expensive, very public lesson in the difference between being royal and being famous. Royalty, for all its constraints, comes with something that no Netflix deal can replicate: legitimacy. Authority. history. And once you walk away from that, you cannot simply buy it back with a lifestyle brand and a podcast. Harry and Meghan thought they could have it both ways. They thought they could leave the institution, keep the titles, lose the obligations, and build a commercial empire on the back of a story that cast them as perpetual victims. And for a while, for a brief, glittering while, it almost worked. But the cracks appeared fast. And in the episodes ahead, we are going to examine every single one of them. Up close, in detail, without flinching. Because that is what the Sussex Files is about. Not gossip, not blind loyalty to any side. Just the facts, laid out clearly, with a healthy dose of wit and a zero-tolerance policy for spin. If you have enjoyed today's episode, and I sincerely hope you have, please give this video a like. It genuinely helps more people find this channel. And right now, every single view counts as we push towards our goal of 500 subscribers. While you are at it, hit subscribe and click that notification bell so you are first in line when episode 2 drops. And believe me, episode 2 is one you will not want to be late for. We are going line by line through the Oprah interview, and some of what we find will genuinely surprise you. Thank you so much for watching. This has been the Sussex Files. I will see you in the next one.